As time marches on, newer and newer games become less and less playable on the Steam Deck, and we're at a point where plenty of new releases will not run that well on Steam Deck. But with a decent cloud stream setup, you could easily play games remotely. Welcome back to the Steam Deck Masterclass, and today we want to talk about streaming your games. When we talk about cloud streaming games, there are two primary methods we talk about. The first is a subscription service hosted by a bigger company. These are useful in case you don't have your own PC or PlayStation or whatever. You can stream games from their servers to your device of choice, and yes, this includes a Steam Deck. You're going to want a decent internet connection. And of course, the other major method is to host a server yourself. This one isn't super difficult to set up, but you will need decent internet, and you will need to have your host device, your big gaming PC, wired up to Ethernet. Like, I would definitely not recommend you have your host PC on Wi-Fi. It should be Ethernet so it's stable. So in this video, we'll talk about both methods and their pros and cons and which one you should use. But before that, if you like this video or any other video I've made, please like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. Spreading the good gospel of high-tech lowlife really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. And while you're at it, why don't you check out Ōff Th e Console? It's a brand new podcast started by Gardiner, Bryant, Games Revealed and I. Sometimes we'll also have guest hosts as well. It's a great time. You should check it out. You can find our podcast wherever podcasts can be found, like Apple Music or Spotify. There are plenty of different services one may be able to use for streaming games, but the ones I tend to gravitate towards are GeForce Now and Amazon Luna. GeForce Now is really easy to install. NVIDIA has a little script you can download from their official website. This script practically automates everything. It installs Google Chrome for you in case you don't have it. And on top of that, it adds a shortcut for GeForce Now. It is super easy to use, but I think my actual preferred method is to download GeForce Now Electron from the Discover App Store. It's super easy to set up, and the only thing you really need to watch out for are your Flatpak permissions. You need to make sure that the Flatpak has access to /run/udev, and make sure it's read-only. If not, then you have to add that yourself via typing it in. As per usual though, if you want to use this in game mode, you will have to add GeForce Now Electron to Steam. Just right click it and press add to Steam and you should be good to go. GeForce Now's greatest strengths is that it plays games off of your various different game libraries. Primarily your Steam library, but also things like your Epic library or heck, even your Xbox library. Though I will say, not every game is available on GeForce Now, and some games may never show up in GeForce Now. Another major strength is that you can actually use the service for free, with some caveats, namely the queue. You have to wait in line to be able to play a game. And second, your gaming session is limited to 1 hour. But of course, after your 1 hour gaming session, you can jump right back in. But of course, you can also pay a monthly fee for a better service. I've never actually used the paid versions of GeForce Now. But of course, with the higher tier versions, you're supposed to have a longer play session and a much shorter queue. But I've also heard these benefits only last for 100 hours. Afterwards, you'll be downgraded to free tier until next month. So how is GeForce Now? Well, GeForce Now is actually pretty cool. And you can actually play Genshin Impact on here now via GeForce Now. In my experience, I rarely have any sort of lag spikes, but then again, I have good internet in my house. Your mileage will vary substantially, and I would certainly double check to make sure you have a controller configuration set up for GeForce Now. Amazon Luna is a very similar story, although you will need to add your own web browser shortcut to Steam. And it's actually not that hard. All you have to do is add Google Chrome to Steam once again, and then you'll want to paste this line towards the back end of the launch arguments. And yes, you can change this URL to be whatever URL you want. In this case, we're changing it to the Amazon Luna URL. And yes, Amazon Luna does work. And if you have certain services like your Ubisoft account or your Epic account tied to the Amazon Luna service, then you can access those games. But linking your GOG or Epic Games account does require you to have Amazon Prime, so there's that too. Otherwise, you can sign up for Luna Plus, which gives you access to certain games. I don't really use Luna Plus though, so I can't really judge the game selection. Both GeForce Now and Amazon Luna are great options for those that may not have gaming PCs. But if you have a gaming PC, you have additional options. You can actually turn your gaming PC into a cloud server. streaming your games from your own PC to your Steam Deck. If you have Steam on your main gaming PC, you're already streaming capable. All you need to do is have a game installed on your main gaming desktop. And then, when you go over to Steam, you have the option of streaming that game from your desktop to your Steam Deck, all with no additional setup. The only real setup that's needed is that if you try to do this for the first time, it will ask you to pair this with your computer using a pin. But after that first initial setup, you won't have to pair it again. And in the future, when you try to stream from that particular Steam Deck, it won't ask you to pair it again. It'll just play and work as expected. And yes, you can do this outside of your own local network. You can do this over the internet. But I do have some recommendations to make this a much better experience. First and foremost, your host PC, the gaming PC you're streaming from, should be connected via Ethernet. Your internet speed is one thing, but internet stability is another thing, and that's what you really want. And with Ethernet, with plugging your computer directly into your router, or I guess putting wires around your house, that'll ensure the best stability possible. And yes, you can actually use Steam Remote Play to remote play from outside of your own house. But do recognize that you are at the mercy of whatever internet connection you have at wherever you're staying. But there is one other contender that many consider to be much better than Steam Remote Play, that being the Sunshine and Moonlight combo. And I covered that in my prior video on this topic. But there's a new contender for a new host program that's out to replace Sunshine entirely, that being Apollo. Apollo is based on Sunshine, but with one additional killer feature: built-in virtual display management. This little addition right here is the single biggest reason why people should be using Apollo instead of Sunshine. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, but first let's talk about getting yourself Apollo. You can get Apollo on their official GitHub page. You want to download this and install this on your main host PC, that is your main gaming PC. You'll want to install this like you would any other program. Once you do that, you'll want to launch the program, and it'll launch your default web browser, and it'll say stuff like, oh, it's not a secure connection, whatever, but it's your local host, so it's okay. Apollo will then ask you to set up a username and password. And then you'll have to log on to the portal. As you can see here, you are on the Apollo portal. Here you can change many different settings. I'm not going to go over them in this video because honestly that would be a long video, and it honestly deserves its own video. And if you click on the applications tab, you can see the various different applications you can launch directly from Moonlight. These show up in your Moonlight interface. You can add and choose whatever programs you want, but by default it comes with desktop mode as well as Steam Big Picture mode. If you're just going to play Steam games, then you may not have to do much else, but if you plan on playing games outside of Steam, like for example Game Pass games, you'll need to start getting used to adding programs. You can press Add New and you'll have the option of adding a new program. This is where you'll configure your new application shortcut. In this case, we're going to add Link's Awakening DXHD. Most of these options are pretty self-explanatory, like the application name. You can even have Apollo search for a cover for your application, provided you typed in the proper name. You can also set up a chain of commands in case you need to run a program alongside a game. You can do just commands that run alongside the game that show up in the foreground, as well as detached commands that run in the background. I haven't experimented too much with these detached commands, so I don't really know which are useful, but it's there for you in case you know what to do. And finally, the most important thing is this command box. This is where you would type in the path to your exe file. Because I have spaces in my exe file as well as the folder, you need to enclose the entire path in quotation marks. And there is one more tweak I would make in here as we're doing this. I would check always use virtual display. This makes the app always use virtual display. This is not checked by default, and to be honest, you really should check it. In fact, in the desktop and Steam Big Picture mode shortcuts, it's not checked either, so I would go in there, edit the shortcuts, and then check the option. This is super important for what's to come. So we're almost done. Now it's time for us to go to the Steam Deck and get ourselves Moonlight. You can download it on the Discover app. While the GitHub for Apollo says it works best with Artemis, the truth is that Artemis isn't available on desktop, or iPhones even. Apollo, however, does work with Moonlight and will continue to work with Moonlight until, I guess, he just stops making it work on Moonlight. I don't know. And yes, when that happens, I will make a new video telling you about it. If you're on the same network as the gaming PC in question, you should see it. And once you click on it, it'll ask you to pair it with a specific code. From here, you'll need to go to your computer, press the pin section, and then type in the pin. Once you do so, it should be paired and you should be able to access your Apollo library. Also, in this pin area, you can check out all of your paired devices and see what permissions they have. Your first device will have all permissions enabled, whereas every other device you pair afterwards will have more restricted permissions. It's highly recommended you enable these extra permissions for every single device you pair to it, you know, just in case. You are in fact almost done, but there are some things I would absolutely recommend you doing for the best experience. Traditionally speaking, the whole remote play situation worked the best when you had a single monitor that was a 16:9 aspect ratio. So things like multi-monitor setups and ultra-wide monitors had issues with the whole setup. But with this virtual display management, you can have it set up to where your game displays on this virtual, not physical display, and have your actual monitors be turned off while it's streaming. All you have to do is load up a game of some sort in Moonlight, and while you're on your desktop, go to display settings and then see which device is your virtual display. You can do this by pressing identify. After that, you'll want to scroll down and press show only on 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the virtual display ends up being. In my case, my virtual monitor ended up being monitor 2, but it may be different for you. Now, you should see that your main monitor is actually turned off, like it's black, meaning that it's not being used at all, and only the virtual display is being used. But once you exit the Moonlight session, all of your monitors come back. It's kind of similar to how laptops work, where if your laptop display is turned off when your external monitors are on and then you unplug the external monitors from your laptop, your screen automatically comes back. This is by far the best solution I've ever had for streaming my own stuff. And yes, this works really well with multi-monitor setups or unusual monitor setups. Do note that if you pair other devices to Apollo, you will need to do this step all over again, the whole disabling monitors and such, because they count as different displays. You can also customize what resolution and refresh rate the virtual displays actually are. Meaning if you have a device like the Steam Deck OLED that runs at 90 Hz, you could make a 90 Hz virtual display. Or if you have a phone that has like 120 Hz, you could do that as well. And if you're going to use this in your house and you have a capable enough network, you can jack up the video bitrate. This will substantially increase the video quality. I should also mention that this entire setup can be used outside of your network as well. You can have your main server at home and your Steam Deck or phone or whatever outside. You just press that plus icon in the top right corner and then type in your computer's external IP address. You can find your external IP by Googling it. And you also need to open up some ports in your router as well, though I can't tell you how to do that because everyone's router is different, so you gotta figure it out yourself. If you can't figure that out yourself, I probably wouldn't recommend opening up your ports anyways. So all in all, Apollo and Moonlight is an amazing combo and arguably the best solution for streaming games off of your own PC. But there are some major caveats you need to consider, especially if you're doing this with a Steam Deck. First and foremost, your main PC detects Xbox controller inputs, so you're not going to be using your fancy per game controller configurations, especially if you made them for the Steam Deck in mind with like the trackpads and whatnot. And you're ultimately running them through Moonlight. And not to mention, sometimes Moonlight has some unusual issues with certain games, like, for example, Rise of the Ronin. If you try to launch it in big picture mode, the game opens in the background and doesn't show itself up front, which is super annoying, and this is part of why Windows just isn't a great operating system for these sorts of handheld experiences. And finally, let's talk about the Steam Deck OLED, because the Steam Deck OLED in theory has a better Wi-Fi chip, but some people have experienced Wi-Fi droppage with their Steam Deck OLEDs, and while I haven't experienced it myself, it's hard to know whether or not you're affected. And I should mention, this doesn't just affect Moonlight, it affects Steam Remote Play and basically every streaming service mentioned in this video and more. So anyways, the reason why I made this video is because the Steam Deck is starting to show its age, and some games just don't play that well on the Steam Deck. Some games I really did want to play, but so long as you have your own hardware, you can certainly stream your games to your Steam Deck. Your Steam Deck will still have plenty of juice even as the Steam Deck 2 releases. And even if you don't have a Steam Deck, I would still recommend setting up Apollo if you have a gaming PC, because it's so darn useful. I've been enjoying it on my phone as well, and it plays surprisingly okay over 5G. If you like this video, please press the like button and check out our other videos, and if you like those other videos as well, be sure to press the subscribe button and share the good gospel of high-tech lowlife with your friends. Furthermore, we have a community Discord for enlightened individuals such as you. And if you wish to further support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page, links in the description.